Welcome back, guys. It's Hybrid Spectre. I've got another lore book for you guys. It's called For Every Rose, a Thorn. And you start getting this lore book once you acquire the Thorn, and you have to get a metric ton of kills with the Thorn in order to get this lore book. And it's a very easy lore book to get, but it's also very time consuming because you have to use the Thorn, otherwise you will not get this. And while I don't exactly like using the Thorn, I used it to get this lore. So, without further ado, For Every Rose, a Thorn. A matter of trust. Is now the time? I write this freely. It is unrehearsed and unguided by hidden motives. I find a trust in you I have long found difficult to claim. Most of my life has been spent on the run, not from any one thing, but in pursuit of an ever-shifting endgame. Truth is, the truth I now know, that endings do not exist. Nothing ends. A moment, a feeling, a person, a war, they are not finite. They're all just stages of being, stages of existence. One moment fades into the next, but they are linked and forever joined. One cannot exist without the other. Feelings, love, hate, rage, sorrow, ebb and flow into each other, free of intent and fueled by the moments that shape them. A person, any person, our lives and deeds live beyond us, our moments making us whole, our actions carving our being into the endless expanse of existence. Even after death, we were here. All we do can be forgotten, but it cannot be erased. Every life we touch alters the course of another being's reality. That reality then shapes the world around it, as all we are ripples out beyond who we are. And war? There is only one. It has taken many forms, but it is always raging, always smoldering below the surface of societies grand and small, hidden in our broken, fearful hearts. I offer all of this as a means to further our connection and begin a new conversation about endings, about beginnings. The trust we share is built on unstable ground. Our connection born of your knowledge of a legend that paints me in a light you have no way of fully understanding, and my observations of your many valiant deeds coloring you in a light few can ignore, be they friend or foe. It is time now we prove our trust is not misplaced. It is time to test your resolve and see if you truly have the strength to balance the gray between absolutes. Are you ready? S. The pain of what's right. That you seek to wield the rival cannons is a noble quest, one that has brought low many who would claim to be your equal. The last word and Thorn are linked by the blood they've shed, but as you know, they are bound more than violence. They are bound by more than violence. They represent warring ideologies. They are of a kind and yet wholly opposite. The cleansing fire and the festering disease like the common view of myself and the shadows, adversaries meant to destroy one another, enemies to our core. But what if I were to weave another tale, give a deeper meaning to the conflict that has drawn my and yours legacy to be painted in such a hateful light? I've played a role for some time now, many actually, but my names, Shin Malfur, the Renegade, various others handed down by fools in hard cases, or even the one or two I've hidden behind over the many years I've spent running from my past and toward an ever-darkening future. They all serve a purpose, and they all start with Shin, the poor, lost, lonely boy whose entire world had been taken from him. The tale of my youth in Palamon is all true, that it tends to elicit sympathy and set my story on the path of the right and just is not a ruse. I am right, and I am just. But ask yourself, did the fact I began as a victim color your perception of me? Is my path, my cause, more righteous because I was owed justice and vengeance? For the longest time, I thought so. But then and here is where the truth of it all begins to gain focus. What if the villain of the story believes so? What if the villain tore apart my life and countless others as a terrible means to an end? What if I was lost and he offered guidance by gifting me vengeance? What if I told you he was right to do so? S. Evolution. Look upon the world with new eyes and know that you see for the first time. All of your time before now, every choice, every moment, was the antithesis of all you were meant to be. To dwell on what was is the greatest sin. A new you hides, trapped, and desperate to be freed in the instant beyond now. Step confidently forward into the unknown, beyond the present. There you will find yourself waiting. Evolution is constant for those who embrace tomorrow. Once unmade, you will be made new. You will be new, your eyes free to meet the lies of existence with unfettered judgment. Only through new eyes can the burden of failed existence be cast aside that we may see, truly see for the first time. 10th Understanding, 7th Book of Sorrow. We have shed our previous selves, not as the final step along the road we have chosen, but as another step forward. The difference between now and then, between this moment and all moments prior, is the difference between one life and the next. We are no longer the men and women we were as our journey began. We have entered our third lives, and though we are not wholly changed, our evolution has begun. To mark the passage from who we once believed we were to who we will become, we have to surrender our dead names to claim new eternal identities, with which to write our future upon the shadowed path ahead. Orsa is now and ever Dredgen Vale, Zana Mas, Dredgen Scar, Jonah Pavik, Dredgen Mire, Callum Soul, Dredgen Cull, Braga Yasul, Dredgen Totalis, and I, Dredgen Bane. There will be fear at the sight of us, and in response to our deeds, there will be pain, both ours and others. This we know, and this we accept with pride and eager, angry hearts. Hand-scrawled note accompanying Teban Gray's personal translation of ancient hive text. Faith in monsters. I hunted Dredgen Yor for decades, first at Jaren Ward's side, then alone. I was obsessed, driven. I hated the man. Still do. The difference between all the moments before I lit my fire and put rounds into the bastard and every moment since is what I learned in the instant I pulled last word from its leather. Yor never fired. Never even moved to draw. He just stood, straight and calm, till my infernal lead tore through him. Then he dropped. It didn't register at first. Once he fell, the moment kinda hung there. I walked over. The world was quiet, and I squeezed off 2 more to be sure. I remember a hint of joy well up inside me as I thought back on Jaren. I'd avenged him. I'd avenged Palamon, and Durga, and North Channel, and all the rest, but my mind hung on Jaren, and my joy became tainted with an uneasy feeling. The moment of Jaren's death played on repeat in my mind. Rapid fire, Jared's cannon, then yours, then silence, long ago in a nowhere forest out west. Jaren never missed, yet he did. Yor, then, didn't, but Jaren was no easy target. Was Yor? He hadn't flinched when I pulled steel. No movement, no change in his tone or words. I gunned him down mid-sentence, as if he didn't care. He knew I would, knew I'd draw, knew I'd fire. So why the talk? Why have words when he knew mine would be loud, mine would be death? Maybe you'll understand this without further explanation. Maybe you won't. But the answer is, and it set my course for the every moment after, because he believed in me. S. Suffering. Evolution is stunted by complacency. Comfort is unto death. Confidence is a lie. Suffering is the catalyst for change. To fear the suffering is to remain. The origin of suffering is all we do not know. The origin is not welcoming. It is your enemy. Be ever violent as you rage against the ignorance that threatens to stall your growth. The quest for knowledge is the purest war. Life is war, within and without. Suffering is not pain, it is life. Look to your suffering and know that this is a gift, for only those who strive truly suffer. All else are simply made to. 11th Understanding, 7th Book of Sorrow. Now the true sufferings begin. That we could restrict it solely to ourselves is our greatest desire. But such is not possible. Others will be caught in our wake. For us to achieve the goals set forth, others will pay a price they do not understand. Such is the way, and we cannot allow ourselves to be deterred. Vale's plan is multifaceted, and could easily fray should the truth be gleaned by any who wouldn't challenge us. Still, it is worth the effort, as there is no guarantee of our success. That our lone example, the dreaded Yor, failed so tragically suggests a similar fate is not beyond our grasp should we falter at any point. Yet we must try, must forge ahead into the night and welcome the suffering to come with open minds and open arms. This is our charge. This is our purpose. Not all heroes may walk freely in the light. Hand-scrolled note of Teban Gray. A shadow's worth. Yor wasn't faster than Jaren, and Jaren didn't miss. Yor was just more than Jaren. Yor was other. It took fire to burn him down, and Jaren, for all his gifts, was lacking in fire. We all were. Not saying I was first. The lesson I learned, the ability I honed to ignite my rage and direct it through my cannon, those were hard lessons learned on a hard, hot planet. Before Osiris's exile, before the gap, my pilgrimage was long and pained and driven by my hate. But that was the point. Skill was not enough. Confidence was no weapon. Not when faced with the terrors of the dark. Yor knew this. Yor counted on it. So when Jaren faced him down, Yor gave him the first shot, offered freely. But Jaren's lead wasn't enough. And even Yor replied, his sickness consumed Jaren's light and left me. Once again, an orphan. Once again, weighed down by sorrow and anger. Yor sought to give me Jaren's prize as a means to tempt me, and it did. When that gun finally met my hand again, it was the catalyst that drove me to find a way to avenge all I had loved. It was a selfish pursuit. But when Yor and I finally met on that flat, high ridge, I was ready. And as I would come to find, so was he. Ready to offer his final lesson. His final gift. A final push toward my true destiny. One that would put me at odds with heroes in order to ensure our worlds are filled with fewer monsters. It was a path I was sure to walk alone until I found others. Until I found trust. Until I found hidden value in that which I had always feared. Shadows. S. Anger. As knowledge blossoms, know that you know nothing. Eternity extends beyond your grasp. This is no flaw, but design. To know all is not the task. To know all you can is your charge. As your view expands, you will begin to see those left behind as adversaries. Ignorance riles the hearts and minds of those on an elevated path. Your adversaries will be many, such is the weight upon all who challenge the hollow rule of stagnation. Let your anger guide you, drive you toward greater learning as you conquer unknown roads, leaving the well-worn to ash. Ignorance is not passive. It is a living, aggressive failure that angers the hearts of all who seek to evolve. 12th Understanding, 7th Book of Sorrow. I thought it would take some convincing, but Cull has agreed to splinter from the group, not in actuality, but as bait for the renegade. Our rival has given us rope with which to hang ourselves, but the further we embark down our path, the more the rope begins to tighten. What we must do next, the next steps in our continued evolution, will surely be seen as a bridge too far. A confrontation seems inevitable, unless we can make plays that shift our hunter's focus. I have some concern that Vale's plan will lead the misguided among our growing number to overreach their ambition, to venture beyond their means and fall forever into the abyss. But then, if the renegade is truly the threat we proclaim, such worry is misplaced, as he will no doubt play his part and thin the herd, as it were. Of course, there is a price beyond the blood of the lesser among our ilk. Kull will be missed, but remembered for his sacrifice. Hand-scrawled note of Teban Gray. Emptiness. Any who fear knowledge are empty of purpose. Be unlike them. Be their rival. Become the destroyer of hollow things. None are equal to those who tread upon existence in search of impossible eternity. All who fail to strive beyond the known are lacking in truest meaning. Your enemies would taint all you hold dear. They know no other way. Emotion is not required when removing obstacles from your path. Obstructions are either ignorant for the greater good or actively against it. Destroy them. To rend one's enemies is to see them not as equals, but objects, hollow of spirit and meaning. 13th Understanding, 7th Book of Sorrow. The ruse worked. Kull's radical speech gathered the weaker among our number, a splinter group of radical shadows hell-bent on worshipping darkness and bending to its will. He preached a doctrine of hate empowered by total corruption, and the lesser minds who flocked to our purpose were drawn in like flies to filth. More important, the renegade took the bait, turned many to ash, turned Kull to ash. A failing on two fronts. First, Kull's sacrifice bought us time and distance. Second, it rallied many of our newest recruits against the renegade. Sides are being chosen, and Vale's recording of Kull's death will draw those most eager to tempt darkness. All is proceeding as we envisioned. Hand-scrawled note of Teban Gray. Revelations and invitations. A revelation. So now, the truth. You've earned it. My name is Shin Malfur. My name is Zaire Orsa. My name is Dredgen Vale, and all who fall to darkness will answer to my steel. The shadows, the drifter's gambit, the seeding fear that the infamous man with the golden gun was on the hunt, blinded by allegiance to the light and gunning for all who tempt the darkness. A necessary deception, offering two paths in order to draw out those for power beyond their means. Malfeasance was a gift, a sample to gauge true hearts of those who reveled in the drifter's games. Those sated by its wicked power were kin enough to know their limits. Those hungry for more, a danger worth tracking. In some cases, a danger in need of confrontation. But the game has only just begun, and I risk much like this here, me offering you the olive branch of truth and trust. Yes, I have led you to believe I was your friend and the shadows of my enemy and yours. If all I have just revealed calls that into question, know that it shouldn't. The shadows are a danger. We are guided by the evolved and controlled methods of Dredgen Yor, except instead of death and destruction, I am offering the mysteries and powers of the darkness as bait for all those who would otherwise go freely into the abyss. I have built the perfect trap with which to cull the weak-willed, and it is working. S. An invitation. The Vanguard and I are not enemies. We simply have different methods. But to their credit, they have allowed my actions, as they have a wide array of concerns to fill their attention. Not that they haven't helped in small ways. Snippets of conversation to plant the shadows as a threat. Feigned ignorance of the drifter's game and its consequences. Zavala prefers more straightforward tactics, but even he agrees that as Guardians' numbers grow, it is vital to test the true mettle of those trusted with the safeguarding of our fragile future. But others, the Guardians who have joined me, Teben, Braga, Jonah, Zana, they are all believers in our cause, and Callum, the truest hero who made the purest sacrifice, his death was noble, and by my hand, but not a hateful thing. His part was and remains key to sealing the temptation of any who would give themselves to sorrow's road. All who would take up arms in his name will be enemies of all he held dear, and they will be punished, you have my word. I am burdening you with the full reality of the gambit at play because I believe in you. My earlier words, my gifting of the last word, that was earned, and all true. You are the future of this war. You, and a few like you, are the warriors who can walk the line between light and dark. And so, I ask you, are you up to the task? Or have I risked all I have struggled to build on a hero who was not ready to become a legend? S. Well, that changes the perspective on everything we thought we knew about the Shadows of Yore and Dredge and Yore and the Renegade, the man with the golden gun. So that's interesting. That's a lot to process right there. So that is for every rose a thorn. Oh, forgot to mention, I'm gonna read the Thorn lore book as well, so we can get the full meaning here. So, Thorn. To rend one's enemies is to see them not as equals, but objects, hollow of spirit and meaning. 13th Understanding, 7th Book of Sorrow. The weapons of sorrow are not the end game, but a roadmap. Each evolution, every advance in the delivery of pain and the mastery of destruction feeds the hive's hateful weapons research. They will map every scream, harness every aggression until they understand every method by which to ravage the hearts and minds and flesh of man. And in doing so, they will turn us against ourselves, feeding our lust, our greed, our fear, until we become a threat unto ourselves like none we could imagine. So, wield these, angry reaper. Strive to know the darkness in your own heart. Walk in the shadows of fallen heroes. And know that you are an enemy of hope. A warning. So, that's the Thorn. And this gun actually looks great from a profile, because it looks ugly when you see it from first person. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. Next as far as lore is concerned, I'm gonna try to find the last of these dead ghosts. However, this may be a 2 or 3 part because this is an incredibly long read. So, but I'm not sure if I may do it or not. Most Loyal, that's gonna take some time. Ava's Journey, I obviously didn't complete it, but I don't know. We'll figure this one out. I'm still figuring out what that one is, but I have a feeling it has something to do with the other side that you choose if you sided with the Vanguard. Still don't know what that one is, and I'm still working on the Chronicon and Confessions, but all in due time. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you guys in the next one.